Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see a lot of faces here today. I will start with Happy New Year. It's the first seminar of the term, and it's the year is new, it's 2022, and hopefully it's going to be better than 2021. We're looking at it from that perspective. I know it has been a challenging year for many people, especially with the COVID-19 situation, but hopefully things will get better in that sense. And I hope you all had a good festive time. I hope you had a downtime because we are starting, and of course we're going to start in a big and massive form as well. You guys already know me, or most of you already know me. My name is Christian Harrison, but I'll still be doing the introduction during the seminar as well. And I'm privileged to be hosting the seminar series on behalf of the School of Business and Creative Industries of the University of the West of Scotland. And we have been doing this since last year, and we have had a great turnout based on the feedback. And I'm sure most of you have found this very, very useful. We tend to have people from different parts of the world. And also, we also have speakers that are renowned and they speak about their research. I think that's the whole idea. On behalf of course, my dean that is not here today, I would like to extend our greetings to all of you. Like I always say, it's not just me speaking. It's always great for everybody to try to introduce themselves. So feel free to use the chat. I know some of you have started using that already. Try to use the chat to tell us more about yourself. Tell us where you're coming from. Introduce yourself. Say hi to everyone. That would be great. So at least we can place the face to the name. One of the speakers last year started it and said, try to introduce yourself in your native language. So I'm happy for you to do that. For some of you from Pakistan, I don't know the language, so you can put it there. If you're Nigerian, you're Yoruba, you can write that there. Just introduce yourself, and we try to make it very, very informal in any way at all. But the rules of the game already, we tend to know with Zoom. Like I said initially, your cameras can be on. It's always great to put your cameras on as well, so you can do that, but it's not compulsory. But it's always great to see the faces. Ayodele has said Ekaro, that's good morning. So Ayodele, good morning to us. It's afternoon at the moment, so it's not morning either way. So you can say hello and can join Ayodele by saying that. Try to put your cameras on if you can. But what's important is try to mute yourself if you're not speaking, so that we won't have any background noise that may affect the course of the proceedings. But most importantly, we don't have coffee and we don't have any refreshment, so you can get your water and all that. But if there's any cause for alarm, if there's any reason that you have to leave your computer, that's more important. Please leave your computer and run away from your house. Hopefully there'll be no fire alarm, but your life is much more important. So that's very important as we go along. But not to talk so much, today, like I said, is going to be the first seminar of the year and first seminar of 2022. And somehow, I didn't plan this, but I'm privileged to be the one speaking for this first seminar. Normally, I'm always the one hosting and facilitating the session, but today I'll be the one speaking on entrepreneurial leadership, a skill-based analysis. So that's what we'll be doing in the next couple of minutes. So I would have introduced the person, but I'll be introducing myself as well. So in the next few minutes, I will be speaking about entrepreneurial leadership and leadership. And after that, hopefully you have questions to ask and we'll have a great discussion as we go along. So the first thing we need to know clearly is that you can see in the world today, with the pandemic, with climate change, with a lot of things happening, leadership has become so important. 12 o'clock today, for those of you in the UK, that PMQs are being asked. The Prime Minister questions are being run at the moment. And one of the things that I'm asking the Prime Minister is, did you disobey the rules that you set aside? Did you put rules that you're also disobeying at the same time? So you can see that leadership is so key going forward. In order for us to be able to rule effectively, in order for us also to be able to go to the next dimension, we need effective leaders. So I would always say it's this seminar is apposite, and hopefully during the course of this session, you will get to know much more about it. So what I will do is I would try to share my slides, and I would present in the next couple of minutes. And after that, you have some questions and hopefully we'll be able to finish by 2. So can you all see my slides?
Yeah, yes.
Good. Thanks, Mohammed, for that. So what I will do is I would expand this and put it in slideshow form. Good. So like I said, it's about entrepreneurial leadership, a skill-based analysis. So there are different forms of leadership for many leadership scholars, but there is a form of leadership that is called entrepreneurial leadership. And we'll be discussing about that now in just a couple of minutes. So my name is Christian Harrison. I'm a reader in leadership, but we'll talk about that. And I'm also the chair of the British Academy of Management, Leadership and Leadership Special Interest Group. So I'm a reader in leadership in the University of the West of Scotland. But during the presentation, we'll be looking at, I'm introducing myself clearly. I'll be providing a background to entrepreneurial leadership, what it's about. I'll be telling you about entrepreneurship, leadership, entrepreneurial leadership, its approaches, why I'm focused on entrepreneurial leadership skills, and providing a conclusion and references as well. So first, this is me. This picture was, I think it's years ago, really. So I don't know whether I'm older or younger at the moment, but this is how I think I look. I still look the same, really. I think I've grown younger, if I have to say that word. But either way, so this is me. I used to be, I'm a pharmacist. So my first degree was in pharmacy. So I'm a registered pharmacist. So I decided to be a pharmacist then. And surprisingly, I don't know whether I'm the right, whether I should be in pharmacy at the moment because with COVID-19, it looks like my pharmacy would have been very useful. I would have been very rich by now. What do you think? I'm not so sure. But the truth is, I used to be a pharmacist. I'm a pharmacist, and I studied pharmacy then, and I practiced as a pharmacist. But I realized that I needed to do more. So I moved into academia. So I did my master's, PhD, and all that then. And of course, I started to write papers, teaching, took up a lot of roles before I became a reader in leadership as well. So as an academic, I'm also the chair of the British Academy of Management, associate editor of different journals and all that. And my area of research, or special area of research, is leadership. So I've supervised a lot of students to completion on leadership, and I do a lot of leadership work. But beyond that, I felt, okay, in order for you to be an academic, people always say, if you want to reach out to more people, what do? You write. So I'm an author of a best-selling book on leadership, titled Leadership Theory and Research, A Critical Approach to New and Existing Paradigms. And this is one of the most cited books in the Palgrave collection to date. Then beyond that, I'm also a humanitarian, and I run an NGO that is called Leadership Mode, that helps to raise the next generation of leaders. So that is me in a nutshell, a summary of the kind of things I do. But my area of research and expertise is leadership. I always tell people that I have 4 things here. Hopefully, in the next couple of years, there'll be another one. So watch that space either way. But it's not just about me, it's about what we're looking at the moment. When you look at entrepreneurial leadership, two things comes to mind: entrepreneurship and leadership. There's a combination of both. So when you say it's the whole idea is entrepreneurial leadership itself emerged from 2 fields, entrepreneurship and leadership. And for many leadership scholars, leadership has been there for decades. Entrepreneurship is a newer field, but these concepts emerged by both entrepreneurship and leadership emerging together. But even with that, these 2 concepts, they have been there for quite a while, are still very elusive concepts. But in order for us to understand entrepreneurial leadership, I think I need to provide a slight introduction of what entrepreneurship is. For many people, entrepreneurship might mean running your business. It might mean different things. We have scholars like Sean Peter, that most of you will know, that says entrepreneurship is about doing things that are not generally done. Some people say it's about creating a new organization. Some people say it's about recognizing and exploiting opportunities. So entrepreneurship itself, even the definition is very, very vague. Some people say, in order for you to be an entrepreneur, you must own your business. While some people say, no, it is about exploiting, it's about being innovative, it's about being creative. So there is still a lot of argument about what entrepreneurship means to people. Then you now go to leadership as well. Leadership, of course, is a buzzword. When you go online, you type the word leadership, you see a lot of people writing about leadership, 6 ways of being a leader. What are the strategies of leadership? There are so many ways people have viewed leadership over time. And when you look at it, you would also notice that leadership is not just for humans. Leadership is also, even in the animal kingdom, you have leaders as well. So you find out in the animal kingdom, the leader of the animal kingdom is a lion. So everybody strives for leadership, even beyond the human groups. When the human groups, we have leaders in every sector. The military, we have leaders. The head of the military might be the general or the field marshal. In religion, you have leaders. For Christians, they could say Jesus Christ, pastor, the Pope. For Muslims, the Imam, Muhammad. So in every sector, we have leaders. In nations, countries, and states, of course, the leader of our nation, the ceremonial leader is the Queen. The Prime Minister is also a leader. Hopefully, he remains Prime Minister in the next couple of weeks or years. Then, even in Scotland, we have our First Minister as our leader. In education, you have leaders. In businesses, you have leaders. So it's so clear that leadership is so important. And going back to the fact that we are in a very, very dire situation at the moment, we need effective leadership. So you can see these 2 fields are important. Entrepreneurship is important, and leadership is also very important. And going back to that, you see that how do we define leadership? Like I said initially, a lot of people there has not been any consensus on what leadership is. I like the quote by Peter Drucker that says, the only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. And it makes so much sense if you look at it, because you can't lead the sky. You need to lead people. So if you don't have people following you, then you can't be a leader. So Peter Drucker's definition is apt, really. But of course, there are other definitions by other people. There's one by Nothouse that says it's a process whereby individuals influence a group of people to achieve a common goal. Lucia says it's an influencing process as well. But for me, what I say is that leadership is influence. I strongly believe that for you to be called a leader, you must be able to influence others. If you can't influence people, then you can't be a leader. So to me, leadership is just one word, influence. So because at the end, there are different ways leadership has been viewed. Some people will say Hitler, some people will say Obama, but one common denominator, whether in political leadership, business leadership, any form of leadership, even leadership during crisis, you need to be able to influence people. But that is just, of course, the arguments within the field of leadership. So now going back to where we're emerging, and that's entrepreneurial leadership. So now these are 2 fields, but are there similarities or are there differences? One thing, one of the scholars, Velkio, says that entrepreneurship itself is a type of leadership within the context of new venture creation. So some people even say that entrepreneurship should be a type of leadership, but that is not the mindset I have. I believe that entrepreneurial leadership, of course, is a different and distinct paradigm. But I will try to take you through how people have looked at entrepreneurship and leadership and the commonalities in the first place. So going back to that, you can see that there are many people, when you look at leaders and entrepreneurs, you see that, okay, our typical entrepreneur, you would consider people like our Mark Zuckerberg, a great entrepreneur. You consider people like Richard Branson, a great entrepreneur as well. You consider leaders like Barack Obama, even leaders like Hitler, unfortunately, are also considered leaders as well, because these kind of people have been able to influence others. If I was going to draw from Hitler, you see that Hitler, when he was trying to take over the world, in quotes, he had people that were able to fall into his paradigm, that he was able to motivate, and they were even able to wear his mustache, interestingly, because he was able to do what I call influence, and that is so important, leaders and entrepreneurs. But beyond that, like I've said, it's all about entrepreneurial leadership. So this form of leadership is a new paradigm. It's quite unique. It didn't emerge until the 21st century, really, and it's emerged because of turbulence and complexity. And what I tell people that, especially within crisis, you need a type of leadership that is entrepreneurial. You need a type of leadership that can exploit opportunities, that can take risk, and can recognize opportunities as well. So this type of leadership is what I specialize in, and what I'll be discussing about during this session. And it's so important because we are plagued with complexity, we are plagued with dynamism, we are plagued with turbulence. And in order for you to succeed, you need to take up this form of leadership. So there have been plethora of definitions about entrepreneurial leadership. And of course, there are different definitions, and I'll be going through some of them. Some of them are proposed, while some have been proposed by others. But like I've said initially, it emerged from two domains. And for some scholars like Koglisar and Breman and Fennard and his colleagues, they tried to look at the characteristics of entrepreneurs and leaders. And what they came up to say was, okay, most of the characteristics of entrepreneurs are also similar to leaders as well. And that even gives us a stronger point that entrepreneurs should be entrepreneurial leaders, and leaders should also be entrepreneurial as well. So these are some of the characteristics: ability to motivate, achievement orientation, being creative, being flexible, being patient, persistence, risk-taking, visionary. All these things are characteristics that we expect from both entrepreneurs and leaders. But the problem with this approach is what they did was, it's only the commonalities that they agree that shapes entrepreneurial leadership. So they looked at it as an intersection rather than as a skill-based approach. But for me, this is what I call entrepreneurial leadership. So I've defined entrepreneurial leadership in my work as a type of leadership capable of identifying and exploiting opportunities in an entrepreneurial environment. Other scholars have looked at it from different ways, like Renko says about influencing and directing performance. Shuri and Ashley says about sustaining innovation and velocity and certain environments. Leach says about entrepreneurial ventures. So there are different ways that it has been viewed about leadership. But don't worry, you would get access to the slides as well. So there are different definitions that we look at. But there are different approaches as well. So in looking at entrepreneurial leadership, it has been looked at in various ways. The first way, of course, is looking at it as an intersection of leadership and entrepreneurship. Some have looked at it based on the context. So where do you enact entrepreneurial leadership? How do you become an entrepreneurial leader? Do you do that within SME? Do you do that within the retail sector? Where is this important? Some have looked at it based on the traits and behavior. Okay, what are the traits of entrepreneurial leaders? How do entrepreneurial leaders behave? So people have also looked at it from that perspective. And there's some people that have also examined the theoretical approach. So no empirical data, but they try to write an entrepreneurial leadership and say, okay, this is how it should be viewed. Then you have people that have compared entrepreneurial leadership to other forms of leadership. So maybe comparing it to transformational leadership, comparing it to transactional leadership, distributed leadership, and so on. So there are different approaches. There are some that have looked at it based on values. I like that approach because most of the time when you look at entrepreneurial leadership, what comes to your mind is, okay, yes, in order for you to be entrepreneurial, you need to be very nasty. You need to be able to, you don't need to care about people. So some people have looked at it, no, values are important in entrepreneurial leadership. Then you've seen education being a focus as well. So how do you educate entrepreneurial leaders? Then there has been a focus on skills, and that's what I'm really going to look at today. How do you ensure that you can develop the right skills as an entrepreneurial leader? There has been a focus on helping organizational performance, that with entrepreneurial leadership, you can improve your organization. You can become better, you can increase your profits, you can reduce your employee turnover. Then finally, some people have looked at it from a feminist perspective, saying, okay, yes, how do we look at gender? Can women be better entrepreneurial leaders than men? So there have been different approaches to this new paradigm that have been very, very involved in. But for me, one thing I always say is, I'm a very strong proponent of the fact that you only look at the things you can change. That's why I don't believe in the trait approach to leadership, because the trait approach to leadership says leaders are born and not made. And if leaders are born and not made, it means that you're wasting your time coming here today because you cannot learn leadership. You can't learn the skills of becoming a leader. So I always believe that in order for you to improve yourself, you need to develop that leadership ability. And in the literature, one of the things that I noticed over time, over the years, was there has not been any focus on entrepreneurial leadership skills. How do you develop the skills of an entrepreneurial leader? What are the skills required in order for you to be a great leader? And I've written so much about this in the last couple of years. And that's what I'll be sharing with you guys today. So in doing this, how was I able to get the skills required for entrepreneurial leaders? First, most of the things I've spoken about are more like the literature review. I did the literature review, and of course, all those approaches we are provided. But what kind of sample was so important? So of course, I also did interviews as well. And finally, I was able to model entrepreneurial leadership. So for many people that are here, both colleagues and PhD students, it's so important when you're building a model that you're able to draw from empirical research. And that is key, because not just writing about it. I have a very strong case, or I have a very strong business case in showing how these skills have been found out and how they have been useful in the first place. So my methodology involved an interpretivist constructionist philosophy. So for me, it's so important that you're able to understand the world from the social constructors. So I'm not really, I'm not saying I'm against positivism, but I believe in order for you to understand leadership, you have to interpret it from the eyes of the beholders. So the followers to be able to say, this is how our leaders look like, and also they should be able to interpret their own world. So that's how my philosophy, of course, aligns. Then I use the qualitative method. Like I said, it involved semi-structured interviews. So these pharmacy entrepreneurs, of course, it's not surprising since I'm a pharmacist, I decided to use pharmacy entrepreneurs to examine entrepreneurial leadership a couple of years ago as well. And I developed an interview protocol based on my study on entrepreneurial leadership. But the good thing is I had interviews with 51 people. So you had 17 entrepreneurs and 2 employees each for those people. So the whole idea of using the 2 employees was because, most of the time when you interview leaders or entrepreneurs, they always have this impression about themselves. They believe that they are God, they know so much. So in order for me to be able to triangulate the results, I wanted to get more information from the employees. So at the end, I was able to reach 51 interviewees, and I was able to build my skill-based framework of entrepreneurial leadership based on the interviews. I use a thematic analysis drawing from King's approach, although I'm still writing about thematic analysis in my own subsequent work as well. And that was important in order for me to build the teams that will be useful in understanding the skill-based perspective. Then quotes from the interviews I had. You can see I had so many quotes on the interviews I had with these entrepreneurs, but there are 3 main quotes that I just put in there so that you can understand what I mean. So one of them was telling, one of the 51 interviewees said, okay, that this was the employee. She communicates effectively. You can't tell me that you don't understand what she's saying. She has good communication skills. So one of the things that came up from the interviews is that most of the entrepreneurial leaders need to know how to communicate. Communication is very key. So they communicate well. Another interviewee said, okay, this person can recognize opportunities and trends in the industry. If you're able to recognize the opportunity and trend, and you can have the discipline to draw a strategy to harness it, then that will help your position. So for this employee, recognizing opportunities was very important. In every industry, being able to recognize that opportunity is key in order for you to succeed. Then, of course, another part, the last one, was more of somebody saying, all about leading by example, being a great role model. Employees or staff tend to look up to their leaders. And once you're on the level of people, there'll be no issues. People want to be loved, in quotes. So these are sample interview quotes from the study I did as well. But the most important thing, I know I'm really running out of time, the most important thing is I was able to develop a taxonomy of leadership skills. And the taxonomy involves these 4 key skills. For me, in order for you to be an entrepreneurial leader, you need to be empathetic. And it involves interpersonal skills. So empathy means understanding people. The interviewees said it clearly that this empathy, being compassionate is very key, especially in today's world of COVID. It's so important that we need people that understand where we're coming from. Not people that don't care about you, but people that really care about you, people that really care about your well-being, people that really care about your mental health. Empathy is very key. Communication and listening is key. Not just communicating to people, but also listening to them. Active listening is very key for a leader. And that's one of the things that came up during the course of the interviews and during the teams as well. They loved people that listened. Motivating is not surprising, but it's very important as well. You need to be able to motivate people. Motivating comes with role modeling. Most of the time, Leaders, they say something else and don't do something, and they do something else. You need to motivate people by being an appropriate role model. Entrepreneurial leadership, that's one of the key important things. Like I said initially, most of the time, the problem we're having with our leaders is that they say something else and do something else. People look up to you. And the great way of motivating people is not just by extrinsic motivation, but also by being who you are. And that motivating skill was key. Team building was also important. One of the things I noticed from the study was that they believe that they can't do it themselves. Great leaders were able to build a team. So it's not about me, but it's about we. In order for you to be a great entrepreneurial leader, you need to work with other people. And in doing that, you also need to be able to manage people and develop their skill set as well. These entrepreneurial leaders, they thought about the people, they thought about their colleagues, they thought about their employees, they put things in place to develop them. They thought about succession, and that was very, very key in interpersonal skills as well. Then finally, self-management. For them, you can't lead people, you can't influence people if you don't understand yourself. So these people understood themselves. They were very critical about themselves. They were very reflexive. They were very aware of the kind of things that they wanted. And that was very important. So interpersonal skills really was an important theme in the study. Also, conceptual skills emerged as well. Not surprising, there were 6 key subcategories within this skill set. You had analytical skills. These entrepreneurial leaders were very analytical. They were able to draw conclusions. They were very meticulous with the way they deal with things. And analysis is so important, especially within the complex or dynamic situation. Beyond that, they were able to generate ideas. Idea generation is very key, and it also leans us to entrepreneurship as well. One of the things about entrepreneurship is that you need to be creative, you need to be innovative. So these entrepreneurial leaders believe that as an entrepreneurial leader, you should be able to generate great ideas. And problem solving was so important for this group of people as well, because at the end, if you're able to solve problems, people would follow you. Just using the same COVID situation, just imagine if you're able to bring the cure of COVID-19. Wow, you're going to be able to change the world. So it's always about solving problems. So as a leader, as an entrepreneurial leader, you should be able to solve problems of people, the organization, the country, regardless of the context. That is very important. And in doing that, one of the things that I also realized from the study was that these people had the envisioning ability. They had a clear picture of what their organization was going to look like. They had a vision. And for you to be an entrepreneurial leader, you need to be visionary. You need to provide that clear picture. People need to follow you. And for people to follow you, you can't follow somebody that doesn't have a vision. Because if you follow the person and the person is going to just lead you astray. So you need to have a vision. You need to have a clear picture of what the future is going to look like. And that was very important. Beyond that, these people were also great planners. Because one of the things that you would notice is if you have a vision and you don't plan, then you only be a daydreamer. So most leaders in today's world, they have vision. They want to change the world. They want to change that. They want to be the solution to climate change. They want to provide solution to COVID-19. But how are you going to get there? What is the map? What is the plan in place to provide a solution to that problem? So planning is very, very key. And that was one of the things that was so important in the entrepreneurial leaders that I also examined. And finally, for conceptual skill, decision making was very key. You have to be decisive as an entrepreneurial leader. It's not just about making decisions, also making quality decisions. So if you don't decide, if you can't make decisions, then you can't be a leader in the first place, even in leadership literature. So you need to say, yes, it is time, I'm going to make this decision. And that was very, very key. Just imagine somebody that you're working with someone and the person is always asking you, oh, can you tell me what I should do? Can you tell me what I shouldn't do? Those leaders would never have influence. They would never have great followership. You need leaders that are tough. You need leaders that are decisive. They know when to make tough decisions. And that's one of the skill sets that I was able to get from it as well. Then the last 2 skill categories were technical skills. Most of these people were good at what they do. For you to be an entrepreneurial leader, you also need to be good. You need to have the technical expertise. And that's why many of us in academia, you see that in many positions of authority, you might need to have a a level of technical ability. So you will see you can't lead a law firm if you're not a lawyer. You can't lead a university if you don't have a PhD at least. So there are different things, and that's about technical expertise. So you need to have that expertise in order for you to be an entrepreneurial leader. Understanding business is key as well. And one of the reasons why someone like Donald Trump became the president of America then was many people were saying, yes, we need somebody that has run a business before. We need people that understand business or how to run the country based on the business ability. So you can see that it's so important that you're able to have that business know-how. And that's one of the things that's quite clear or quite important within this taxonomy. And the final three, and this is what I really try to propose, that it's one of the major reasons that one of the skill sets that makes entrepreneurial leadership quite distinct from other forms of leadership, is that entrepreneurial leaders are able to identify opportunities. For you to be able to be an effective one, you should identify opportunities that others cannot see. But most of the time, those that are successful, they see things that people cannot see, and they identify it. And when they identify those opportunities, they exploit those opportunities as well. It's not just about identifying it. How can I ensure that this opportunity is maximized and exploited? And that is very key, exploiting those opportunities going forward. And finally, managing risk. For many leaders, the problem is they are risk averse. You can't be an entrepreneurial leader if you're afraid of taking risk. You must be ready to gamble. I'm not saying you should go to William Hill and gamble all your resources or anything. But what I'm saying, that what I noticed from the study is that these people are able to take risk. But when they took those risks, what they did is that they did an analysis. They looked at it, they were analytical and said, okay, they took calculated risk. And that was very important. But you should ensure that you're not risk averse. You need to take risk in order for you to succeed as an entrepreneur. So that is really the taxonomy I was able to exploit from my study. And through that, I was able to build this model. So I always tell people, I published this model in 2018, that was like 4 years ago now. And I've written so many papers on entrepreneurial leadership. So this is just one of the papers I've been able to produce over time. And it shows you how the leadership framework works. These are the skills you require, but it's so important that these skills would help you create a good business, commercialize your business, manage your business. If you're looking at it from the business perspective, if you're looking at it from the country's perspective, either way at all, it provides valuable outcomes. But one of the things I always say is that it also has intervening conditions. Like in everything in life, there's some causal conditions as well. Family will be important, culture will be important, nature of your followers will be important, your resources will be important, your experience will also be important. The challenges and opportunities you have will also be important. All this will be important in knowing how you exploit your leadership skills or your entrepreneurial leadership skills going forward. But these are the skill sets that you need to have in order for you to excel. So I know we don't have so much time, but one of the things that I would leave with you guys is this skill assessment as well. So I have this skill assessment that I produced a couple of years ago, and I use it for a lot of my CPD training. And I try to tell people, okay, this is the framework, this is the skill set. So when you fill this, when you fill the form, it helps you to be able to evaluate where you are. Because I've spoken about the taxonomy, and that has been quite elaborate, but where do you fall as an entrepreneurial leader? What kind of skills do you have? So through this skill assessment, the slides will be there. So I will share the slides with you guys after the event. You can on your own go back and fill it and be truthful to yourself about it. But let me see if I open it. That might be useful as well. So if you can see it. So let me see. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, we can see.
So could you see the screen on the let me try to share. Let me try and share this. Okay. So this is what you would see. So on your own, you could go back and try to evaluate yourself. So this is meant to help you to know about entrepreneurial leadership better and try to see. So based on the results, you will know where you are. So of course, we don't have time. This is just a 1 hour session. So I would have loved you guys to try to tell me more about yourself through entrepreneurial leadership and all that, but we don't have so much time for that. So we'll go back to our entrepreneurial leadership. So for me, and most importantly, I will try to round up with this. It's about developing yourself. So I've told you about the skill set I've been able to use over time. But one of the things I always say, like I said from the beginning, was it's about trying to become an entrepreneurial leader. And based on my studies and based on my research over time, I've proposed different methods that I think will be useful. I believe that mentoring is very key. So you have to be mentored formally or informally. Formal mentoring is important for many people that work in organizations. They tend to have a formal mentor in place that will say, okay, yes, this is how you should, these are the kind of things I expect of you, because these people have gone through the same things you've gone through, and they know the kind of skill sets that you need. Informal mentoring means, okay, the person doesn't know that the person is being mentored by you, but you're able to follow that person's life and you become a mentee to that person. So really, mentoring is a very important way, but though not everybody goes with that way, but it's one of the ways you can develop entrepreneurial leadership, those kind of skills I highlighted. Training programs are very important as well. Like I said, I run CPs on entrepreneurial leadership. I've been running that for a while now. And when I run that, I try to say, okay, what are those skills that I've, based on the taxonomy that I proposed, what are those skills you think you don't have? And when you're able to be truthful to yourself and okay, I think I'm struggling on my interpersonal ability. I think I'm struggling on my visionary ability. I think I'm struggling on planning, or I think I'm struggling on self-management. So then you now try to see how you can help that person. So there are a lot of programs that will help you. Okay, I think I'm not able to communicate well with people. I'm not that nice. I need to be more empathetic. So you need to be able to examine, identify that, then try to go on CPDs or training programs that will be useful in doing that. But one of the things I always say is, it's the leadership. Leadership is a personal journey. And in order for you to do that, you need to take it as a PGA, so more like a personal growth activity. So read leadership books, read entrepreneurial leadership books, read my book on leadership, read my articles, read anything at all on leadership. If you want to know how to lead or how to be an entrepreneurial leader, then you can read and watch programs. Now we have a lot of YouTube links, we have a lot of TED Talks. Of course, not all of them are very productive, but these things help you. They help you become a better entrepreneurial leader. But for me, the final and the most important part is practice. Many people are always afraid to practice leadership. If you're afraid to fail, you will never be a great leader. You need to be able to, you need to learn to fail. Failing is not bad. Most great leaders are people that have failed before. So in order for you to develop this skill set, you need to practice. Practice makes perfect. So you need to practice doing it. Practice leadership. Don't be risk averse. Do those things. When you fail, you get up and take responsibility and go back again. So that is so important. So these are the ways I believe I have proposed that you should be able to use to develop your leadership skill ability. Like I said, I've written a lot of things on entrepreneurial leadership. So based on that, although this was a qualitative study I spoke about, I've also done a quantitative study with a colleague in Iran 2 years ago that we developed an entrepreneurial leadership questionnaire where we try to evaluate people. So they fill the surveys, and I think we're the first to develop a multi-dimensional construct on entrepreneurial leadership. And of course, I'm the first person in the literature to also develop a skill-based structure framework on entrepreneurial leadership. So I'm really one of the key players in this domain as well. So either way, the most important thing to conclude is this. For everything I've said, although I don't believe that entrepreneurial leadership is all about personality, but does personality matter? Of course it does. Those things matter. The kind of person you are, the kind of traits you have matter. Does it matter how an individual behaves? Yes, it does matter how you behave. Do I need to develop my entrepreneurial leadership skills? Yes, you definitely need to. If there is nothing that you if there is no takeaway from today for you, I think the most important takeaway for me really is we all need to take ownership and try to develop an entrepreneurial leadership skill. And that is very, very key. So for me, it's yes, yes, and yes. So thank you very much for listening. I think I ran out of time. I think we only have 16 minutes. So please feel free to ask questions. And these are some references as well. Some of them are the ones I have written, and some of them are by other colleagues in the domain. So thank you, and I would stop sharing. So now questions. Okay. I think Temi, I think we're viewing the wrong screen. Why are you viewing the right screen?
For a long time, we're viewing the screen where you had the assessments till the end. For me, I don't know about any other person, but for me, I had that screen on till the end of the, yes.
Is that true? Was it only Temi or every other person?
It's everyone.
It was a questionnaire.
That's what I'm saying to you.
Okay, is that what you saw all true?
Yes, that's what I saw.
So you only saw the assessment. You didn't see the other parts of the presentation.
No, the assessment was what was there until you got finished.
Wow, I'm sorry for that. That's I didn't even know. So you didn't see this.
No, we didn't see all this.
You didn't see all this. So, but you saw the, okay, let me see. As I'll stop talking. Let me go back to the sharing the screen again. Okay. So can you see the screen now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
So you stopped share. Okay, you saw all this. Was here you stopped?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't see this part.
No.
No, we didn't.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. I didn't even know that you didn't see. So that was the skill development side and the conclusion. So you didn't miss much, don't worry then. So it was just the skill development part, and I spoke about the mentoring, training programs, personal growth activities, and practice, then the conclusion. Then yes, like I said, personality matters, but what really matters is entrepreneurial leadership skills. And please feel free to ask questions, references, well, you'll get all the slides. So I think, so that's it. So only the last two slides, like Mohammed said. So any questions for me then? Any questions? Thanks for the feedback. Okay, I think many times, thanks for that. So good. Okay, yeah. So any questions? So now it's time to ask questions. Any questions? Thanks for the feedback. You can see a lot of people enjoyed it, so that's good. Well, now any questions? Any questions you want to ask?
Hello, Dr. Harrison. Thank you very much. That was a very, very great session. I enjoyed it all through. But I just want to ask one question. You give a lot of skills here.
Yeah.
These skills are very many. Yeah. I just want to ask, do you feel like there are any few of them that can be like the top 5? Like, can you prioritize some of them? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Tomi, for that. And that question is a question that I tend to get in most of the CPDs I run. And the funny part is that I always ask the question. So this is the first time someone is asking me as well. But I tend to ask that question and say, okay, yes, what kind of skills do you think is important in that sense? And most people tend to come up with like, oh, I think entrepreneurial skills are the most important. Or I think conceptual skills are more important. I think interpersonal skills are more important. So I don't try to guide the conversation and tell you that this is the most important. But when you look at it, you will see that these skills, many of them, in today's world, research has shown that interpersonal skills are key. So in order for you to influence people, interpersonal skills are important. Empathy is important. You need to understand people. You need to know how people work. communication and listening is very important. Those soft side, being able, if you're going to influence people, they need to understand people better. So interpersonal skills are key. But beyond that, also conceptual skills are also important as well, because you need to be visionary. So it all depends on the kind of, I would always say it depends on the situation. So some of these skills might be more important depending on where you are. So if you're in a sector whereby it's so important that you're able to relate with people, then interpersonal skills become important. If you're in a sector whereby it's all about exploiting and understanding opportunities, then entrepreneurial skills might be more important. If you're in a change situation whereby people need to see that vision, then of course conceptual skills are more important. Then if you're in an environment whereby it is what you do, it's your technical ability that will determine. Because just imagine if you don't know 1 + 1, then you can't tell people that this is, because you can't deal with people. Like when you look at investment bankers, most of the time, investment bankers, they need people that know about investment banking. So it all depends. So you feel like technical expertise will also be important depending on the context. So the answer to that question to me is all about the situation, really. So I don't think there is any category that is more important than the other. But of course, with today's world now, especially within the political context, I would really say that interpersonal skills are very key. So I hope that's okay, Tony. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for me? I'm mindful of it. Okay.
So thank you, Dr. Harrison, for the wonderful presentation. I didn't get bored at any point. Thank you.
I'm happy.
All right, so after listening to you, it brought to mind the aspect of ethical, I wouldn't say ethical leadership, but the ethical part of leadership, especially in an entrepreneurial leadership. Have there been any research done in this area? Because I think as an entrepreneurial leader, you have to battle with doing the right thing, or how to draw the balance between the moral aspect of leadership. So I was just wondering that how does ethics come into entrepreneurial leadership, and what you have to say about that?
Okay, good. Thanks, Timmy, for that. And one of what you said now is one of the arguments that we've had in literature, especially within scholars in the domain. Many people, if you look at entrepreneurship, people tend to say that entrepreneurs are really not ethical. If I'm going to mention a lot of entrepreneurs of course, we know what's his name, Elon Musk. We know our rich man, again, what's his name, Jeff Bezos. One of the things that people think, these guys are not ethical, they're not doing the right thing, they don't have values. So most of the time, people tend to say that it's not a common denominator with entrepreneurs. But what most researchers, people like Shuri and Ashley and other people have tried to say is that at the end, ethics is important, especially in the long term. In the short term, you can get away with a lot of things. You can get away with a lot of bad practices. But in the long term, values will determine the kind of people that will follow you. And that's why for short-term success, you could do anything you want to do. You might decide not to be ethical. But in the long term, those values and ethics will determine your profitability. So really, it is still a fair of research that has not been really examined, just like few scholars that have looked at that. Am I going to examine that? Not really. I don't intend to do that in the future. But I think that is a gap to fill. But there are some scholars that have shown that ethics in the long term is a valuable dimension for you to be an effective entrepreneurial leader. People like Shuri and Ashley that has looked at that as well. Okay. So tell me, does that answer your question? Timmy.
Oh yeah, it does. And those leaders you mentioned were exactly the ones on my mind that prompted the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, that's the most of those people are the kind of that's where the argument comes up, and it's very common in the domain as well. So any questions, comments? It might not be comments, not be any question.
For mine was related to Tammy's question, and I probably have answered it already. So it was about social entrepreneurs and their characteristics. How are they different than the other? I think you answered that already. It's the ethics basically that makes a difference.
Okay, no problem, Rabia. Thanks for that. So sometimes when you answer the particular question, of course, it transcends to the other one. So I'm happy that I answered your question as well. That's good. So any other questions, any comments, any feedback, anything you want to say? Okay, Ayo.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison, for that. Yeah, thank you for that insightful presentation. I don't expect less, you know. But the question I want to ask is that you are a reader in leadership. Is there any plan you have designed for the PhD student to ensure not just academic scholar, but we will have a kind of mindset of being an entrepreneur, you know, right? Not just coming to seminar, but something designed that can aid, you know, business acumen or initiative that makes some of us to feel, okay, I think I'm confident of going into business, because most of the things we do are centered around academic and not really much business oriented. Thank you.
Okay, that's a good point. I think even Rabia said that was a good point, Ayodele, as well. So thanks for that question. I've been working with the graduate school for many years now, and I also run specific leadership workshops for PhD students. So beyond what I'm doing now, I think what I do is I try to look at how to develop your leadership ability. So what you're saying is one of the things I'm currently doing. Well, unfortunately, I didn't do that last year because of the COVID situation. So I've not really done that, but I've been doing that for years. So what I would do is clearly I would continue doing it and ensure that we can look at it, because the truth is beyond, one of the things about the PhD journey is we tend to run away from the fact that not everybody wants to be an academic. Some people want to run into the industry. Most of my students, some of them tell me that, oh, Christian, I'm having a chat with one of my students, and she told me recently, like, I don't want, after my PhD, I'm out. I'm going to the industry. Like, are you serious? I said, yes. I'm like, I never knew. So sometimes we always think that everybody's going to be an academic. So, and that's why I'm in a privileged position, like you rightly pointed out, because the whole idea is being able to help people in the entrepreneurial ability, looking at trying to see how they can fit into the industry. So of course, I will be working with your doctoral college, both in the business side of it and also in the school side or university wide, to ensure that we're able to develop that entrepreneurial ability, that fourth strand that makes entrepreneurial leadership. It would be to be part of the curriculum. And hopefully when I propose that workshop, I would expect all of you to attend, so that we can see how we can do that. So thanks for that. And I've taken notes of what you've said. So any questions, anything that you want to add to it? I can see comments here. More things I can see comments by Craig. Thanks for the great presentation. There's a lot of great information here. You can see that says insightful presentation, Dr. Christian. I think it was Mohammed said, many thanks for the wonderful and valuable presentation and discussion. So more feedback. Anything anybody wants to add? I think Femi, thank you, Dr. Christian, for the presentation was very clear. Emegwali, the same thing as well. So any other questions? We only have 2 minutes. So I hope you all had a great time. It was good talking to all of you. And it was quite good as well, being the one I'm privileged to be the one to talk today. And I think for me, this was very important as the first seminar for the term. And I think it's all about trying to shape, because to me, forget about the fact that I'm a reader in leadership or I'm biased about leadership. Of course, I have to be biased, but I personally feel that leadership is so important. I always tell my students, my colleagues, that the most important thing in the world today is if you can change the way we view leadership, if we are able to view leadership in a better way, the world will change. That's a major problem, bad leadership, if I'm to use that word. So if we can, so that's why this form of leadership I call entrepreneurial leadership is key. And I always say, like I said initially, we need to practice it. So practice it, and of course you'll get better at it. So develop that leadership ability. So in the next fortnight, you already know we'll be having another session. So please ensure you come for that. That's going to be by Professor McLoone, and it's going to be looking at business innovation. So it's almost tallies with what I'm talking about. So now we'll now be looking at, okay, yes, I've spoken about leadership. So the next thing is what? Innovation. How can you be innovative? So we're trying to see how we can address that side of things. So please ensure that you register for it. It will soon be public, and please try to register. But it was great seeing all of you. I'm so happy that you all enjoyed it. And of course, the slides and also the recordings will be available to you, so you can go back and watch at your own convenient time. So thank you very much. I can see some people that Zach is just joined now, so I hope.
Sorry, I was in a meeting, just finished. Yeah, okay, sorry about that.
No problem at all. But it was great to see everyone. The recording will be available on the YouTube channel of the university, so you can still engage with it. And for those of you that attended as well, it's still the same thing. It's always good to go back and watch these videos, and you'll be able to understand better. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thanks. It was great seeing all of you, and Happy New Year again, and see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Happy New Year.
Bye.
See you.